Imagine paying dues to beautify your block, and then, getting threatened over the color of your mailbox and your tomatoes. What would you do if your HOA Karen dialed 911 and demanded, like, 20 police cars, just 'cause you asked her kid to give back your groceries? I'd been in Oakwood Estates for exactly 2 weeks, which, in suburb time, feels like 2 seasons. The moving boxes still formed a cardboard skyline in my garage. My front yard smelled like fresh mulch and cautious optimism. I kept it quiet, waved to dog walkers, nod to joggers, learn the trash schedule, read the HOA handbook like it was a thriller with a plot twist in every footnote. I was, trying to be boring on purpose. Thursday came soft and sunny. I hit Freshmart after lunch. Cap low. Just another guy grabbing dinner. My cart wasn't a statement. It was chicken thighs, green beans, rice, a bag of beautiful organic tomatoes on sale, bright as stoplights and twice as bossy. The cashier scanned while I watched the belt, mind drifting to all the little things that make a place feel like home. A decent hammer, a good neighbor, a quiet night. Behind me, a laugh, teenage, cocky. The kind of laugh that still tries on being mean because it thinks mean looks grown. Before I can blink, a pale hand appears over my shoulder and snatches the tomatoes right off the belt. "Hey," I say. Not loud, not quiet. Steady as a level on a shelf. "Those are mine." The kid, 16, maybe doesn't flinch. He's got that shaggy haircut all the boys get when they're allergic to barbers. "You don't need the fancy stuff," he says, hugging the bag to his hoodie like he just rescued produce from a burning building. "People like you don't usually," he lets the sentence dangle. "Ugly, doing what ugly does when it thinks it can hide in the air. Son," I reply, even and slow. "Hand them back." He reels like I shoved him. Puts on the performance. "Mom," he shouts, voice cracking. "Mom." He's threatening me. Click-clack. Click-clack, the staccato of heels that never met a courtesy they couldn't crush. She comes around the end cap like a storm wrapped in a cream blazer, Patricia Thompson. Folks around here use Patricia in print, Patty in church, and Karen when their patient snaps in group chats. She scans me head to toe, then glares at the cashier like the register itself has offended the neighborhood. "Get away from my child," she barks. Each word its own little siren. She shuffles Tyler. Later I learn the name behind her, like she's guarding a crown jewel. Her phone's already out. 911. "Hello. Yes. Emergency." Her voice goes syrupy and sharp. "There's a dangerous man threatening my teenager at Freshmart on Oakwood and Maple. He's large, aggressive, refusing to back down. Send backup. Send a lot, 20 cars. Yes, 20. And SWAT if you've got it." The cashier freezes. A shopper halfway through picking cereal suddenly can't read. The security guard by the door looks 19 and out of his depth. My heartbeat does what it always does. In moments like this, counts time so I don't have to. "Ma'am," I say, not trying to win anything but the truth. "Your son took my tomatoes. I asked for them back. That's all." She stares at me like I just ruined escrow. "People like you always play victim," she says. Each syllable dipped in a tone I've known since I was 6 and learned what grown-ups can hide inside their voices. This is a private community. We have standards. I like standards. I answer. Reaching for the bag she's clutching like it's Exhibit A. I also like paying for my groceries. Do you even live around here? She demands. Oakwood Estates is an exclusive development. We have a board. I'm on it, actually. I chair it. I know everybody. I moved into Oakwood Estates 2 weeks ago. I say. A small smile slipping out. We must have missed each other at the welcome wagon. The color drains from her face so fast, the fluorescents have to do overtime. Tyler's eyes widen. His grip loosens. Gravity does what gravity does. One tomato rolls free. A red marble on beige tile. He shoves the bag at me like it burned him. See, she snaps at the cashier. Violence. Intimidation. The cashier, bless her spine, hands me my receipt. Sir. Do you want me to get the manager? No. Ma'am. I say. I think I'm done here. I nod at Patricia, like you nod at thunder. Respect it. Don't fear it. Don't pretend it's not loud. Then I walk out. Oakwood Estates is the kind of neighborhood where every third garage hides a hobby, and every fourth mailbox hides a complaint. You can hear sprinklers at dawn and gossip by lunch. I pull into my driveway, and because the universe has a cruel sense of humor, Patricia pulls into hers across the street at the exact same time. She spots me getting out with my bag. The anger on her face curdles into shock. No, she says. No. No. No, this can't be happening. Afternoon. I call. Friendly as a porch swing. Beautiful day. She doesn't respond. She clutches her pearls. Metaphorical, but loud. And hustles inside. A curtain twitches upstairs. If paranoia paid HOA dues, she'd get an early bird discount. That night. Exactly 2 a.m. Bass explodes from their house like a subwoofer inside a beehive. My windows hum. My picture frames shimmy. Tyler's friends cheer like a crowd at a small-town parade. Patricia is on the front porch, in a robe that probably has a name and a price, waving her phone like a baton. This is how we handle intruders. She says to the camera. We show them we're not scared. At 3 a.m. Eggs sail. Sloppy arcs at my porch. At 4. Their 3 dogs accidentally slip the fence. Frolic through my flower bed. And how do I phrase this gently? Leave deeply personal commentary on my steps. Patricia performs the least convincing. Oh no. Bad doggy's routine I've ever seen. Complete with a wink at her phone. I don't raise my voice. I don't raise a hand. I raise my camera. The obvious door cam decoy. The real workhorses, a doorbell with a wide eye. 2 porch light pinholes. 1 paver rock, with a lens so small you'd miss it unless you were in love with secrets. Years of a job that teaches you where to look, teaches you where to watch. At 8 in the morning, I'm out watering my hydrangeas, which are trying their best. Thank you. Patricia marches across the street in exercise, leggings, and a scowl. You don't belong here, she announces, planting at my property line like the line itself owes her rent. This is a family neighborhood. We have standards. It is lovely. I agree. Misting the lavender. I can see why you'd want to protect it from people who throw eggs and let their dogs ruin other folks' gardens. She glances up at my doorbell cam and laughs. You think that scares me? My lawyers eat videos for breakfast. She leans in. I'm the board. I run the votes. I run the fines. I run the neighborhood. I bet that keeps you busy. I say, Maybe pace yourself. Her eyes narrow into slits, so thin light would need a permit. She pivots. Storms back. Tyler gives me a glare he learned in a mirror. I file it under things I've survived before. Around lunchtime, my phone rings. Marcus. It's Linda. Next door. Linda's voice is honey with a hint of steel. She runs on casseroles and common sense. Hey. Neighbor. Everything okay? Depends. She says. Did Patricia just declare war on your hydrangeas? Pretty much. She's run off 3 families in the last 2 years. Linda whispers. Like the roses are wearing wire. All of them folks of color. She files complaints. Twists, rules. Makes life a drip torture till you sell. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. You're warning me now. I say. I appreciate it. She doesn't know what you do for a living. Does she? No. I answer. And I smile, because secrets are only heavy if you try to carry them all alone. Let's keep it that way. Linda sighs. Be careful. She's got friends on the board, and a talent for making trouble look official. Thanks. I say, hey. If you ever see anything weird, just text. I'm logging everything. Oh. I will. She replies. Welcome to Oakwood, where the lawns are short and the grudges are long. By Saturday, flyers bloom on mailboxes, like invasive species, emergency town hall, community safety. The word safety is highlighted in a color that makes your eyes itch. People show because fear is a better RSVP than curiosity. The room smells like folding chairs and church coffee. Patricia stands at the front with a projector and a laser pointer. Wearing that cream blazer because some costumes don't change between acts. On the screen, the Marcus problem. Underneath a blurry photo of me watering my grass. Which, last I checked, is not a felony. Thank you for coming, she says. Voice trembling just enough to bake in virtue. We have a serious threat. She clicks to a clip that's so chopped it should come with a salad fork, me looking up at my camera. Then a jump cut to me bending over to pick up a package. Then the timestamp missing. See, she whispers to the room. Always watching. Always prowling. I move that we, as a board, initiate proceedings to remove him for the safety of our families. A murmur ripples worried faces. A couple head nods. A lot of folks who just want the potluck back on the calendar. At the fold-out table sits Richard, HOA president by accident and habit, soft-spoken. A little tired. Has probably said, let's all calm down, so many times it echoes. Patricia, Richard says into a tiny mic. We cannot remove a resident without cause. There are laws. What about the law of protecting our children? She shoots back. You'd rather wait till something happens. On your head be it. I stand up from the back row. It's not dramatic. I'm tall. So that part does itself. The entire room turns like geese when one decides it's time to go. Patricia sees me, and the color leaves again. Hi, I say, stepping into the aisle. Thanks for the invite. I didn't invite you. She hisses. Laser pointer shaking. Open meetings are for residents. I reply, holding up my little paper handbook like a choir book. Says so right here. Article 4. Section 3. Richard looks relieved by the existence of rules he can point at. If Mr. Washington has evidence to present, we should hear it. Great. I say, let's start with Freshmart. I tap my phone. The projector obliges. We roll the security footage. Uncut Tyler's grab. The insult. My ask. Patricia dialing. The request for 20 police cars, and heaven help us. SWAT. That's fake. Patricia blurts. AI deepfake. He hacked cool. I say. Then let's change angles. I switch to my own phone video. Same scene. Same voices. Different timestamp. Same truth. A hush falls that you could lay a tablecloth on. I let it sit a second. Then cue up the porch cam series eggs at 3 in the morning. Dogs at 4. Patricia coaching from the shadows. Tyler's spray paint and the slur that turns a stomach sour even on a full heart. This is outrageous. Richard says. And I can hear the relief in his outrage finally. Something he can be mad at that isn't a person. It's an action. Patricia. We can be liable if we allow harassment in the name of enforcement. Entrapment. She screams. He baited us. He's dangerous. Someone check his background. It's okay. I say. And I mean it to the room more than to her. We all deserve safety. We all deserve truth. I unplug my phone. By the way, Patricia, you asked for 20 police cars. You also said you wanted to speak to the chief. I half smile. We'll get to that. By sunrise, 10 neighborhood groups are burning like brush. Post after post me. Me. Always me. It's impressive how quickly paranoia can turn a man into a mirror that shows everyone what they fear. Suspicious activity. Possible criminal record. Seen prowling at night. It's midnight videos of me taking out trash. Captured through blinds by people who forgot their own cameras, are weapons, if pointed wrong. I screenshot everything. It's tedious. Yeah. But boring documentation beats exciting injustice 9 days out of 10. Tyler. Hungry for attention, like a kid who skipped breakfast and lunch. Posts more clips to his private account. He leaves his location tags on. 'Cause teenagers leave digital footprints like they're stamping snow. In one video, Patricia's voice floats in from just off camera. No. No. Angle it so we can see his house number. In another, she's on the phone with a local blogger, purring a bribe and a threat in the same breath. 2,000 cash if you run a story about his record. Call him a danger. People listen when it's about, you know. The blogger hesitates. Patricia. I could get sued. That's defamation. It's not defamation if it's common knowledge. Patricia replies. And the words taste like stale coffee even from across a screen. Besides, I know things about your custody case. Be ashamed if my memory got Carrington-oed. Creative. I don't celebrate that clip. I file it. There's a difference between winning and building a case. One's loud. One's useful. My deputy texts, heard rumblings at city council. Some folks want you put on leave pending investigation. I stare at my kitchen window. Morning light has a way of making even ugly truths look solvable. I type back, press conference tomorrow. 3 in the afternoon. All command staff present. You sure? He replies. Once you go public, then it's public. I send. Time to put our cards on the table. City Hall smells like stone and history, and a cleaner somebody overused. Reporters stand in clusters. Testing mics. Chin up. Eyes hungry for a pull. Quote. Patricia and a handful of her faithful take front row like they reserved it online. She points at me the second she sees my face. Officer. Arrest him. He's impersonating. I step to the podium, adjust the mic. My badge sits warm and heavy in my pocket. Good afternoon, I say. We are here to discuss recent incidents in Oakwood Estates and to address misinformation circulating about a resident. I nod to the A. V. Tech. Roll it. We play it all. Fresh Mart. The porch nights. The bribery call. The Facebook fear. The comments so clumsy they impeach themselves. Lights up. I place my badge on the podium. The thunk is soft, but it goes everywhere. Miss Thompson, I say, 2 weeks ago you asked who I am. You told 911 to send 20 police cars. You said you wanted to speak to the chief. I let the beat breathe. I am Police Chief Marcus Washington. The sound that follows is equal parts gasp and realization, and a little bit of comedy. Someone near the back says, not quietly. She called the cops on the chief. And laughter buckles the room. It isn't cruel laughter. Exactly. It's the laughter that happens when a balloon full of nonsense finally pops. Patricia sways. Tyler grabs her elbow. Misses. She folds like a lawn chair. Neat as linen on Sunday. Paramedics move professional. Kind. She blinks awake in time to hear me continue. Even. Not gloating. Miss Thompson. You're under arrest for filing false reports. Aggravated harassment. Criminal threatening. And conspiracy to commit defamation. You have the right to remain silent, which, honestly, for once, might be your best option. I nod to my officers. They do their job gently. Tyler tries to bolt. Stumbles. Ends up cuffed by a sergeant who could teach a master class in calm. The cameras catch everything. But the part that matters isn't the spectacle. It's the message. Authority isn't a costume. Safety isn't a slogan. The law is not a toy. By sundown, Patricia's employer posts a statement. We maintain zero tolerance for discrimination. Her job evaporates. The HOA board calls an emergency session without her, the only emergency they've handled right in years. By midnight, memes. Multiply the techno remix of Send 20 Police Cars. The slow-mo faint. The confused teen. I'm not proud of enjoying any of it. I'm also not a saint. Court moves at the speed of paperwork. Which is to say, slower than anger and faster than gossip. A judge who has seen enough nonsense to last 2 careers, hands down, fines big enough to sting. Probation, with terms that actually require learning. And community service that smells like sweat and humility. Tyler does juvenile court. Where lies go to realize they're not clever. Detention. Counseling. Service hours. So long, he starts to measure time in trash bags. He tries to hang it all on his mother. The judge leans forward. Voice soft and surgical. You made choices. The board votes Patricia out. Unanimous. Which means a couple of folks changed sides before their boots got wet. Richard finds a spine he didn't know survived his 30s. He sends a letter to the neighborhood that feels like turning the page. We will not tolerate harassment. Our covenants are for gardens and garages, not grudges. 6 months later, the bank takes the Thompson house. A family moves in, a black couple with 3 kids, and a calendar that looks like Tetris. They plant sunflowers and a little free library. Linda bakes lemon bars and says, "This is the neighborhood I signed up for." Patricia starts a fundraiser titled, "Victim of Entrapment, Help Me Fight Back." It limps. Tyler donates $3.50. The platform removes it for violating terms. The internet moves on. Because the internet always moves on. It just leaves dents where it stood.
Ma'am, I just want my
Spring sneaks back like a neighbor's cat soft. Smug. Exactly where it wants to be. I'm at the park checking on a community service crew. There. In an orange vest, with a grabber stick, stands Tyler. He's thinner. Older around the eyes. Shame does that. So does work. He sees me and freezes. The bravado's gone. The apology arrives before he can stop it. I'm sorry. He blurts. I was stupid and hateful, and just wrong. My mom taught me. But I chose it. I messed up my life. Your mother taught you. I say. And you made choices. I reach into my pocket. Pull out a card. Second chance youth. They don't fix you. They teach you how to fix yourself. Why help me? He asks. Voice cracking, like it did over those tomatoes. Because hate is taught. I say. So is change. And grace isn't a receipt, it's a direction. I shoot him a look that says limits are real. Don't waste this. I won't. He says. I'm working at the food bank. 2. I'm trying. Keep trying. I reply. You don't get another one from me. That night at the Unity barbecue, yeah. We have one now. Tyler is there, serving beans with the quiet of someone who finally figured out how to be useful. Our eyes meet. He nods. I nod back. That's enough for one evening. About a week after the press conference, an envelope appears in my mailbox, without a stamp, always a classy move. Inside, a courtesy notice from the HOA grass length exceeding standard. Decorative rock unapproved. Mailbox, shade inconsistent with neighborhood palette. It reads like a poem for people who love control more than actually mowing. I make coffee and reach for a highlighter. HOAs speak a dialect of bureaucrat that sounds like a lullaby until it hits your wallet. The trick is knowing the words better than the bully. Dear Board. I write. Letter so polite it could curtsy. Per Article 7. Section 4. Landscape variances may be submitted within 30 days. Attached. Please find soil tests and a native plant plan that reduces water usage per municipal guidelines. I turn the page. Regarding the decorative rock, Appendix B expressly permits locally sourced natural stone in the size and color installed. The mailbox. Your cited paint code was discontinued 2 years ago. The manufacturer's approved equivalent matches within a tolerance that is PR the handbook. Acceptable. I send copies by email and certified mail. Cause paper trails like friends are only good if you can find them when it rains. Richard catches me on my morning walk. Marcus. That letter, you should teach a class. Tell the board this. I say. Rules should be guardrails, not cudgels. Let's be the kind that keeps kids out of ditches, not the kind that pushes them in. Linda is the neighbor you hope for, and the friend you earn extra cupcakes on your stoop the day you move in. Jumper cables the day your battery dies. A look that says, don't you dare to anyone picking a fight at a potluck. When the videos went viral, she brought lasagna and a warning. The internet is a wave, she said. And you're tired. Don't surf, stupid. Richard is a man who thought peace meant letting loud people run out of breath. Turns out, peace sometimes means speaking up before the earthquake. He starts bringing printed agendas, a timer, and a new sentence to meetings. We will be civil. It works better than you'd think. Worse than you'd want. And exactly as much as a Wednesday night can hold. The blogger shows at a town hall. eyes rimmed red from a week of thinking about choices. I didn't take her money, she tells me, but I thought about it. Thinking isn't a crime. I answer, it's what you do next. My department starts block party, town halls, hot dogs, lemonade. Officers in polos, not plates. We add a session to training about bias that doesn't pat anyone on the head. We practice scenarios where the loudest person isn't the most right. We bring in community leaders who will tell us hard truths without burning the room down. Reporters keep trying to get me to dunk on Patricia. I don't. Not because she deserves kindness. Exactly. But because everyone else deserves clarity. This isn't about one person, I say. It's about how power behaves when it forgets it's supposed to serve. People ask why I didn't flash the badge at Freshmart, why I didn't pull rank at the HOA meeting, why I let the storyline spool, until it tangled around the folks who spun it. Truth is, I've spent a career learning that, sometimes, the fastest way to the truth is to slow down. You don't calm a fire by yelling at it. You starve it. You bring water. You make sure the wind's blowing the right direction. Also, this part is selfish. I wanted them to say the quiet part loud. On camera. Into microphones. Not for revenge. For receipts. For the next person who doesn't have a badge in their pocket and a department at their back. Later that year, on a quiet night, I sat on the porch with a glass of sweet tea and a photo of my late wife. Sarah, you said the high road is lonely. I told her. You didn't say it had such a nice view. I laughed. A little. Cause grief, lets you. And I watched kids ride scooters in loops and a golden retriever try to eat a bubble and a sky do that pink to purple fade that looks expensive. What Patricia tried to sell as standards was fear in pearls. What the neighborhood decided to buy instead was something older and better neighbors. Grace. Rules that keep us from bumping elbows without being used to break kneecaps. And me, I'm still the guy with a cart full of groceries and a habit of watering plants too much. I'm still the neighbor who waves first. I'm still the chief. Titles come and go. The work sticks. So yeah, imagine a Karen calling the cops on the chief. Then imagine the chief choosing patience, paper, and proof. Imagine a neighborhood learning to be a neighborhood again. It ain't flashy, but, it works. Freshmart put up a little sign a few days after the press conference, be kind. Produce has feelings. It was a joke, well, sorta. The manager, a woman named Dora with kind eyes and a clipboard that could probably land a plane, pulled me aside while I grabbed milk. We updated our policy. She said, no more filming other customers unless there's a real emergency. Also, tomatoes now live behind a tiny velvet rope. She smiled. Kidding. Mostly. Word of what happened there didn't just travel, it unpacked a suitcase. Folks started talking in line. Not just about me, but about that feeling when someone treats the world like their private club. A man in a ball cap nodded to me near the deli. Saw the footage. He said, my sister went through something like that 2 towns over. Glad you kept your cool. I would've, you know. He mimed something that looked like a regret waiting to happen. I get it. I told him. Anger's a hot stove. It'll cook your dinner if you use it right, and burn your hand if you slap it. He grinned. I'll steal that line. Please do. I said. Just don't steal any tomatoes. The cashier who'd frozen that day, her name's Elise, caught my eye and gave me a little thumbs up that carried more courage than her frame suggested. "We've got your back," she mouthed. I didn't need anyone to. Still felt good. Some evenings I end up on Linda's porch. She pours tea the color of patience and tells me neighborhood history like a radio station that only plays truth. Back when Patricia first ran for the board, Linda said, she talked about gardens and family movie nights on the green. Sounded nice. Then she got the gavel and started measuring grass like it owed her rent. "Power's funny," I replied. "The good kind looks like service. The bad kind looks like somebody auditioning for sheriff in a town that already has one." Linda snorted. She tried to find Dolores on Birch for her wheelchair ramp, saying it wasn't aesthetic. Can you believe that? We marched a whole casserole brigade at her. She backed down. But she never forgot it. People like that rarely do. I said. They keep ledgers. And now hers is full, Linda murmured, watching a kid wobble past on a bike that was, generously, half brakes. "You think she'll change? I think change is a door," I said.
Ma'am, I just want my
"It
bag of
opens
tomatoes."
from the inside." Linda looked at me over the rim of her mug. "That's a lovely way of saying probably not." "Yeah," I laughed. "Sometimes lovely's the only way to say it." On a drizzly Tuesday, Richard showed up at my door with a folder fat enough to be a pillow. He looked like a man who had dropped something heavy and discovered his arm still worked. "Marcus," he said, tugging at his collar like the tie he wasn't wearing was strangling him anyway. "I owe you well. The board owes you an apology. A lot of us thought letting her blow steam was the same as keeping the peace. It's not an uncommon mistake," I answered, waving him in. He stopped just inside, like he didn't want to shed rain on my rug. Conflict avoidance isn't peace. It's delay. And delay is gasoline when the spark's already lit. He sagged with a relieved chuckle. "You have a metaphor for everything I collect 'em," I said. "Want coffee?" He nodded. "Please." He looked around my living room while I poured. The space still had that just-moved-in neatness that comes from not owning enough clutter yet. I handed him a mug. He held it like truth might be hiding at the bottom. "We're rewriting some policies," he said, tapping the folder. "I brought drafts. I'm not asking you to be the board's bulldozer. I am asking you to be a neighbor who knows where the ditches are." I flipped through pages, clear complaint procedures, defined timelines, a ban on anonymous drive-by fines, a requirement that any alleged violation include a photo and a date written out in full, a rule about respectful communication that didn't just scold it, set consequences. "This is good," I said. "It reads like care, not control." "We also want to do a listening night," he added. "No votes. No motions. Just residents telling us where we've been heavy-handed." "Put the chairs in a circle," I said. "Serve cookies. And set a 2-minute timer. People will respect a limit if it's fair and real." He scribbled circle chairs. Cookies. Timer, like I just solved zoning. "You'll come, I'll come." I promised. And I won't bring the badge unless I have to. Richard stared into his mug. Then, up at me. "Patricia scared me," he admitted. "Not like physically. More like she made me afraid to be the guy who said no to a hurricane." I kept thinking if I let her run out of breath, the wind would die on its own. "Wind stubborn," I said.
Right now.
"Best thing about a hurricane is it also runs out of town eventually." He let out a breath that sounded like the first note of a new song. "Thank you," he said, and meant more than the coffee. Patricia's next move was as old as postage. Letters started hitting mailboxes. All flowery, cursive and veneer. Dear neighbor, they began. I have been maliciously targeted by a man with power, and I fear for the safety of our community. She listed my name, my job, my threatening presence at grocery stores. She spoke of manufactured evidence and a coordinated smear. She said she was a mother and a volunteer, and devastated. I stood at my counter. One of her letters spread open like a pamphlet, and breathed through the annoyance. It's one thing to be lied about. It's another to watch folks be asked to install the lie like a software update. Linda called. You get one of these. I did. I said. She's doing a sympathy tour. Half the block tossed it. Linda said. The other half is confused because Patricia is very good at sounding reasonable while setting a fire. What do? We do the thing that always feels too slow and ends up working anyway. I answered. We tell the truth. Over and over. Patiently. Like drip irrigation. We wrote a joint letter, me, Linda, and 3 other neighbors who'd seen more than they wanted. It was boring. In the best way. Dates. Times. References to the meeting, recording, and public court records. Invitations to talk in person, on our porches. We didn't dunk. We didn't drag. We didn't rehearse our side of the internet's worst debate team sport. We just laid out what happened and what would happen next. New policies. A cleaner process. A neighborhood that could breathe without bracing. The block responded like a body exhaling. Some folks stuck to their corners. Every town has a few, and that's fine. Agreement's nice. Accountability's necessary. The courthouse was humming like a beehive dressed in beige. Tyler shuffled in behind Patricia. Both of them smaller, without the stage of a front porch. Their lawyer wore a suit like a shield and whispered at a pace that sounded like praying. The judge took the bench with that look judges get when they've just eaten a breakfast of patience and deadlines. The state did not bring a circus. It brought a sequence. The 911 call played quietly. The security footage rolled like a train schedule. The posts were entered. The bribe call transcript lived in the record like a stone in a pond. Patricia tried the word entrapment again. The judge lifted an eyebrow as if to say, please don't insult my furniture. Her lawyer pivoted to misunderstanding. The judge nodded at the videos, as if to say the camera does not misunderstand. Tyler's turn was the part where my chest did that tight thing, anger wearing a parent's face. He tried to blame the internet for making him famous for the worst parts of himself. The prosecutor asked him if the internet had also held the spray can. The judge's sentence wasn't a hammer. It was a map. Fines. Yes. Probation with strict terms. Mandatory training that wasn't just a video you can ignore while scrolling. Community service that required showing up and staying. For Tyler, counseling. More service. A curfew that probably felt like a leash and was, in truth, a hand trying to keep him from running back into traffic. When it ended, Patricia turned once, as if looking for an audience that had already left the theater. I didn't follow her gaze. I walked out into a sky that decided to be blue in a way that felt personal. We set the chairs in a circle. We set the timer to 2 minutes. We set out cookies because sugar is diplomacy in a plate. People came. Not everyone, but enough. Dolores rolled in first, with a smile that said the wheelchair ramp fight didn't break her. A retired teacher named Mr. Green sat with a notebook like he was grading us. Teenagers loitered in the doorway, which I counted as attendance. Richard opened, voice shaking only a little. We are here to listen, he said. No motions. No votes. Just neighbors. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes so everyone can speak. If you need more time, we'll schedule follow-ups. We will be civil. A hand went up. I'm Sam, said a man I'd waved at for weeks without learning his name. I'm tired of getting nasty letters for leaving my trash can out overnight. I work nights. I get home at odd hours. Can we have some grace? We can write that?
I am calling
Richard
the police
said.
right now. You cannot.
Pen ready. Into the
Ma'am, I
timing
just want my bag of
policy.
tomatoes.
Thank you. Dolores spoke about accessibility. How aesthetic became a knife that cut the same direction every time. A young couple talked about their toddler's chalk art leaving color smears on the sidewalk and fines on their door. A teenager, Ava, hair in a high bun like a flame, talked about being followed by someone with a phone while she walked back from the bus. I live here, she said. Please don't make me feel like a stranger on my own block. By the time the cookies were crumbs, we had a list that read like an apology, turning into a planned grace periods. Photo requirements. Bans on anonymous complaints. A complaint submission form that asked, what outcome are you hoping for? Because sometimes people just want to be heard, and sometimes they want someone arrested for plants that don't match. We agreed on a quarterly walk the block day where folks would do small fixes together instead of writing each other up. It felt like the neighborhood had been holding its breath for a year and finally decided to inhale. On a Saturday full of sun and kids sticky with popsicles, I found Tyler at the community garden, hands deep in soil that didn't care who he'd been 2 months ago. His supervisor, a woman named Grace, because the universe can be on the nose, watched him like a hawk, and a teacher and a mother who knew when to step in. He spotted me and flinched like a muscle memory. I waved and kept moving, giving him the gift of not being the center of anything. He caught up later. Voice quiet. I'm learning,
I am
he
calling
said.
the police right now. You
Eyes
cannot
on the
film
tomato seedlings.
me. Ma'am, I just want my
Gardens
bag of
forgive
tomatoes.
if you water, I said. People do, too. Sometimes. I apologized to the Johnsons, he added, meaning the family that bought his old house. Mr. Johnson told me to carry a bookcase and eat my words. So I did both. That's a strong man, I said. Yeah. Tyler breathed. Stronger than me. He's older than you, I replied. You'll catch up if you let yourself. He nodded. I started a club at school. We pick up trash on Saturdays. We might plant trees. Ava's in it. She makes fun of me when I slack. He half smiled. I need that. Keep the friends who tell you the truth, I said. They'll put a floor under your worst decisions. He looked up. Do you hate me? I thought about the question like it deserved more than a knee-jerk. No, I said. Hate is heavy. I'm carrying enough. I don't have hands left for that. He swallowed. Thank you. You're welcome, I answered. Now keep planting. Those tomatoes don't grow themselves. My inbox turned into a neighborhood of its own. Half the messages were thank yous, and we had no idea, and our HOA's been doing something similar. Any advice? The other half were what I call whisper threats, vague warnings that something bad might happen if I didn't remember my place. I answered what I could. I forwarded what I had to. A pastor from down the road wrote to invite me to speak. I said yes, and brought a slide deck with exactly 0 slides. Just stories, and the phrase, do the boring thing that works, written on a whiteboard. A librarian asked if we could host a Know Your HOA night. We did. And the room filled with people who were very tired of being told to read a handbook they'd never been given. One email hit different. A note from a woman named Camille, who said Patricia had bullied her out of the neighborhood a year earlier. I sold at a loss. She wrote. I cried the whole way to my new place. I felt like I'd failed my kids because I couldn't tough it out. Watching you stand up, not with fists, with facts, helped me breathe again. Thank you. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I closed the laptop and took a slow walk under a sky doing that blue thing again. Sometimes the win isn't noise. It's a quiet you can finally hear your life in. Because the internet is a theater with infinite stages. Patricia recorded a podcast episode from her sister's spare bedroom where a plastic fern tried to look expensive. The title was How I Survived a Smear by the System. I did not listen. Folks sent me the highlights. She claimed she'd been framed. That Tyler was just a boy. That she'd been defending property values. That the woke mob had conspired with big city elites to ruin a humble mom. She cried at exactly the moments a cynic would predict and a kind person would pause at anyway. The comments under the episode weren't kind. Not all of them. Some were cruel in a way that eats the soul of whoever writes them. I didn't celebrate that either. The thing about justice is, it's supposed to prevent the need for pitchforks. When the pitchforks show up, even metaphorically, it means something in the machinery still needs grease. We did not respond. We did our jobs. The court date came and went. The neighborhood kept building its little muscles back. Patricia faded from our daily weather. She became a story you tell new residents when they ask why the rules now read like guardrails and not landmines.
Ma'am, I just want my bag of tomatoes.
Richard asked me to facilitate a board retreat, which is a very fancy name for folding tables, coffee, and a schedule taped to a wall. We wrote the mission in big letters: protect property values by building community, not by policing neighbors. We listed values: fairness, clarity, respect, grace, safety. Then we did the scary part. We asked each other what we'd done that matched those words and what we'd done that betrayed them. There were long silences. There were a few tears. There were apologies that felt like rain after drought. We built a decision filter to use when somebody proposed a rule. Does it solve a real problem? Is it enforceable without harassment? Does it apply to everyone? Can a person comply without spending more than a day's wages? Is there a warning before a fine? Is there an appeal process that makes sense? We ended with a potluck. I brought cornbread. Linda brought something lemony that made us all shut up for a minute. Richard brought a new habit when the conversations got heated. He would say, "Let's take a breath." And then he would actually take one and wait. It was cheesy. It worked. One night, I sat at my kitchen table and called my mom. "Saw you on the news again," she said. Proud and worried, like the seasons wrapped up in one voice. "You look tired." "I am," I said, "but the right kind. Your daddy would have said you were bone-tired and soul-good." She replied, "And then he would have told you to eat 2 sandwiches." I had one. I admitted. "Does that count?" "Depends on the size," she teased. Then turned soft. "I'm proud of you, baby. Not for the cameras. For the patience. I learned it from you," I said. "And from church ushers who could quiet a room with one look." She laughed. "Remember Mrs. Hargrove's fan? That woman could wave the Holy Ghost into a nap. We talked about nothing for a while. Which is how you talk about everything when you're staying human." A week later, I walked past a driveway where a little girl crouched, chalk dust on her knees, drawing a sun that looked like it wanted to give someone a hug. Her mom caught my eye and froze like I might cite a statute against joy. "Hi," I said, crouching too.
I am
"That's
calling
a
the
good
police
son."
right now. You cannot film
The
me.
girl beamed.
Ma'am,
"It's
I just want my
smiling,"
bag of tomatoes.
she informed me. "Like you. Then it's doing it right," I said. "Y'all have a good day." The mom exhaled like someone who'd been holding a hose kinked too long. "We got a warning for chalk last year," she said. "Said it was graffiti and it lingered on the sidewalk. Even though the rain took it the next day." "Not anymore," I answered. "We wrote a rule. Chalk is welcome. Joy is not a violation." She laughed. "I might embroider that." "Please do," I said. "Put it on a pillow under the window so everyone walking by can read it."
Ma'am, I just want my bag of
Mr.
tomatoes.
Green, the retired teacher with the notebook, invited me for coffee. His house smelled like books that know things. He showed me scrapbooks from decades of Oakwood kids in Halloween costumes, on sidewalks that never changed. Women with big hair holding Tupperware like trophies. Car parades with handmade signs that said "Welcome home" to a neighbor returning from a deployment. "We have always been better than our worst day," he said. "Sometimes we forget. Sometimes somebody helps us remember. Sometimes, Chief, that somebody is the person everyone decided to point at." "I didn't plan to be a lesson," I replied. "Lessons don't plan either," he said. "But they help us pass the test." He walked me to the door with the slow dignity of a man who knows how to end a conversation without hurrying it. "Tell the board to plant trees," he said. "Shade is the best apology a neighborhood can give the kids it hasn't met yet." I told the board. We planted trees. Ava and Tyler and a handful of friends turned their Saturday thing into a real club with a name that didn't sound like snitching. They chose Block Watchers, then added the good kind as a tagline, because teenagers understand branding better than most committees. They painted picnic tables, picked up trash, organized a coat drive, and hosted a Know Your Neighbor's Chalk Art Day. They made a short video called "How to Be a Neighbor" with tips like "Wave first," "Ask before you assume," and "Bake something if you can. Bring fruit if you can't." It got more views than Patricia's podcast and, honestly, deserved every one. They asked me to appear in a clip. I said I'd hold the boom mic. Ava rolled her eyes. "You're gonna at least be in the bloopers," she said. "Grown-ups need to see you laugh. Grown-ups see me laugh." I protested. "Yeah," she said. "But on the internet." Fair point. I filmed a line or two. Messed up a word. Said, "Sorry. Let me try that again." And the kids cackled like joy had tripped and fallen into their afternoon. Not everything smoothed out. A man on Pine posted a rant about declining standards after seeing the Johnson kids set up a lemonade stand with glitter signs that shed like a sparkly dog. He ended with "back in my day,"
I am calling
which is a phrase that covers a multitude of cranky.
Ma'am, I just want
Before
my
I
bag
could
of
draft a
tomatoes.
response, half the block beat me there with kindness. "Back in my day, we loved lemonade," wrote Dolores. Also, "The glitter looks like the 4th of July had a baby with happiness." Mr. Green added, "I will pay double for a cup with glitter on the rim." Linda dropped off a package of biodegradable glitter because she is equal parts mischief and solution. The post turned into a thread of neighbors buying lemonade and tipping with small bills and big smiles. The man on Pine came by the next day with reusable cups and an apology that sounded like a screen door opening. Not every story arcs. This one did. Some nights, After the block quiets and the porch lights go from glare to glow, I think about the thing that set all this in motion. A bag of tomatoes. A boy who thought cruelty made him taller. A woman who believed authority meant never being told no. And me. Deciding to be boring until being boring built a bridge strong enough to carry the truth. I'm not a saint. I get mad. I get tired. I say you know too much, and I sometimes overwater my lavender, because control is a hard habit to shake. But I'm learning. Same as Tyler. Same as the board. Same as Oakwood. Learning to wave first. Learning to document. Learning to choose grace without letting go of justice. Imagine paying dues to make your street beautiful and discovering the most beautiful thing is hearing your neighbors laugh again. Imagine the rule book becoming a recipe and the meetings becoming potlucks and the kids chalking suns that smile. Imagine your HOA's loudest voice getting quiet and your quietest neighbor finally speaking up. We're not done. Neighborhoods, like gardens, don't do done. But we're better. And better. Is a good direction. Summer brought thunderheads that stacked over the hills like tall ships. Weather radio said severe, which around here means tie down your patio chairs and pray your sump pump knows its job. Around dinner time, the sky went that greenish bruise. The air got tight. And then bang, lightning hit somewhere too close to be polite. The power blinked. Tried to stand. Then toppled out. Street by street. Oakwood Estates went quiet, except for the kind of rain that makes conversations wait. I lit candles. I checked my little emergency kit. Texted my deputy to confirm the grid status. Then, I grabbed my rain jacket and walked onto the porch. Across the way. The Johnson kids whooped in the downpour until their mom lassoed them back inside. Far down the block. A transformer sizzled in a way that says, "Do not be near me." My radio crackled. Reports of a limb on birch pinning a sedan. Another of water pooling at the low end by the cul-de-sac. Linda's porch light was out like everyone's. But her voice carried. "Marcus," she called. "You good? I'm good." I answered. I got flashlights and a stubborn attitude," she said. "And brownies." She laughed. "Want one? Rain check." I shouted, grinning at my own bad joke. "I'm gonna walk the block." I moved house to house. Knocking. Checking. An older couple had a beeping medical device. We ran an extension to a neighbor's generator. A young mom was alone with a baby, and a fear she couldn't disguise. I set her up with extra batteries and a promise that we were nearby. At Birch, we found the sedan under a tree limb, thick as a wrestler's thigh. The driver was shook, but fine. Half a dozen neighbors, some I knew, some I didn't, worked a saw like a baton, passing it down the line, taking turns, cheering each other's progress. No orders, no boss, just a shared annoyance with obstacles. By midnight, the rain eased. Stars poked through like shy kids. And there, in the middle of the street, a little table appeared, Linda. Of course, with a thermos of something warm, and a plate that steamed cookie scent across the dark. We ate. We told tired jokes. Ava took selfies of wet hair and wide smiles and called it disaster chic, which made everyone snort. 2 blocks over, I heard Greg's voice carrying the way loud people practice for years. Greg had been Patricia's reliable vote tall, always wearing a polo with a small animal stitched on the chest like taxidermy for clothes. Good at rules, bad at listening. Now he was barking about proper chain of command and liability exposure, while 3 teenagers tried to clear a drain. "Greg," I said,
Ma'am, I just want my bag of
stepping over,
tomatoes.
hands in my pockets, so he knew I wasn't here to fight. The chain of command is water to street to drain to creek. The liability is your lawn if this corner floods. Let the kids do their thing. He glanced at me like I'd violated a collar stay. There's a process, he insisted. There's also a river, I replied, nodding at his ankles, which were beginning to understand physics. Ava flashed me a grin and went right back to prying leaves out of the grate with a rake. Greg huffed, but his feet learned faster than his mouth. He ended up holding a flashlight. When the power crept back around dawn, like it regretted leaving, Oakwood had a new hum neighbors on porches. With that, we did something together look. The next board meeting. When someone proposed a rule about battery backups for sump pumps, nobody rolled their eyes. We didn't love more rules. We loved fewer panics. 2 days after the storm, my desk phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Marcus Washington. I answered. A whisper chief. It's Diana. Patricia's sister. I remembered the podcast Fern and the spare bedroom. How can I help you? Ma'am, she's not doing well, Diana said, words tripping like a person who didn't practice asking for help. She lost the job, the house, the well, everything. She won't talk to most folks. She says everyone's out to get her. I know she did wrong. I know. But could someone check? I'm at work till late, and I ready you not day. I don't trust her to call me if she needs a doctor. My brain did that tug of war between justice and humanity. My heart cut the rope. Text me the address, I said. I'll send a wellness check. I grabbed a uniformed officer who has a gift for walking into hard rooms and leaving them better. No speeches, I told her. Just eyes, ears, and kindness. They found Patricia in a small apartment with boxes for furniture and a television playing loud like it could erase silence. She was brittle and defensive until the officer asked if she'd eaten. Then she crumbled in a way that felt, if not honest, then at least tired. They gave her the number for a clinic that does sliding scale mental health work, a food pantry schedule, and the name of a legal aid group that helps people navigate probation without tripping. When my officer reported back, she looked at me like she was testing for disappointment. We didn't arrest her for being sad, she said. We just saw her. You did the job, I replied. All of it. Mercy isn't a rerun of the past. It's a down payment on the future you want to live in. I don't know what Patricia does with hers. That part isn't on me. A week later, City Hall sent me a draft ordinance for review. Neighborhood, Civility, and Fair Enforcement. The title said, like it wanted to be boring on purpose. It laid out minimum standards for HOA processes inside city limits, notice requirements written in plain language, bans on drive-by anonymous complaints, a simple appeal structure with timelines, a mediation option, and, my favorite, a clause that said aesthetic can't be used to block accessibility or kid joy. It also created a liaison office, one person whose entire job would be helping residents and boards sort out disputes before they became fires. I made notes. We added a requirement that fines couldn't exceed a percentage of monthly dues without a supermajority vote at an open meeting. We put in a chill clause, no fines within 24 hours of a major weather event. We added a line about bias reporting that would trigger an outside review if patterns emerged. At the council hearing, a few folks grumbled about the government telling us how to run our neighborhoods. I get it. But a city makes lanes so cars stop kissing bumpers. This was
I
that.
am calling the police
This
right
ordinance
now.
doesn't micromanage. I
Ma'am,
testified.
bag of tomatoes.
It protects. It says we value process more than power. It says we like our kids' chalk more than our neighbor's urge to scold. The ordinance passed. Not because of me. Mostly because people were tired of being tired. Fall arrived in flannel. Board elections landed like mail you actually want. For years, the slate had been a shrug. Now, neighbors were asking real questions and bringing cookies to candidate night. Ava and her club made posters that said, "Vote for people who wave first," and taped them to lampposts with permission slips signed in triplicate. Greg ran. Of course. He used words like order and consistency and property values with an intensity that smelled like a candle labeled nostalgia for a time that didn't exist. But he also, to his credit, had done good work during the storm. He bragged less and listened more. That mattered. Linda didn't run, she said. She prefers to run the block from her porch. Which, honestly, is accurate. Dolores ran and won in a landslide powered by every person who'd ever pushed a stroller or a wheelchair down our sidewalks. Mr. Green ran as the historian and gave a speech about shade trees that made 3 people cry and at least 1 person plant a sapling that afternoon. A young dad named Ramon ran on the platform of "Let me fix the playground equipment" without filling out 12 forms and got more votes than he expected. Greg squeaked in at the bottom of the slate. He looked surprised. Like someone had baked humility into a muffin and served it without warning. Afterward, he approached me with a handout. "I appreciate your service," he said. The pause before appreciate was not short. Still, a hand is a hand. "Congrats," I said, shaking it. "Let's do the work." At some point, the angry emails slowed to a drip and then stopped. I didn't notice right away. You don't miss a headache the minute it's gone. You notice a day later when the light looks brighter. Meetings turned into agendas in minutes instead of performances in minutes. Complaints read like, "Hey, can we fix this gutter?" instead of "Save our culture." The Facebook groups got boring in the way that means safety has returned. Someone posted about a lost cat. Someone else found it. That thread got more comments than anything Patricia ever wrote. Tyler's community service wrapped. He still showed up on Saturdays because, in his words, "My hands miss the work if I skip." Ava gave him grief in ways that sounded like friendship growing a spine. Their club convinced the board to fund a small tool shed with rakes and paint and those grabber stick things that make short people feel like superheroes. The shed has a big sign, "Use. Return. Be nice." One afternoon, while replacing a broken swing at the little park by the creek, I caught a flash of cream at the corner of my eye. I turned. A woman stood at the fence. Patricia. No entourage. No phone. Just a paper envelope in her hands. She hovered like a bird who forgot how to land. "Chief," she said. Voice hoarse, like she hadn't used it for kindness in a while. "Miss Thompson," I answered. Neutral as a level. "You well. Working on it," she muttered. She held up the envelope. "This is for you." She didn't step forward. I did. Taking it without touching her fingers, because boundaries are also mercy. "Thank you," I said. She nodded like it hurt. "I'm going to meetings," she added. "The kind where you sit in a circle and tell the truth. It's not pretty. Pretty's overrated." I answered. She swallowed. Tell Tyler she stopped. No. He doesn't need that from me. Not yet. She turned and left. Inside the envelope, a note in careful block letters. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I expect consequences. I am living them. I am trying not to make excuses. Please accept the library gift card for the youth club. Books helped me once. Maybe they can help them. It was signed Patricia. Then scratched out. Then P. Thompson. There was, indeed, a gift card. I handed it to Ava and said it came from a neighbor who wants the kids to read. Ava cocked an eyebrow. Then shrugged. Books is books, she said. We'll take it. We resurrected the fall festival that had,
I am calling the police
according
right
to
now.
Mr.
Film me.
Green's scrapbook,
Ma'am, I just want my bag
been the
of
heart of
tomatoes.
Oakwood 15 and 20 years ago. Pea contest. Chili cook-off. Kids in costumes that shed glitter like a comet. A hay bale pyramid that looked, frankly, like an insurance adjuster's nightmare, but somehow, nobody fell. The board set up a table with big signs explaining the new complaint process and a bowl of candy corn labeled bribes for honesty. Ramon ran a booth where he fixed small stuff, brought from home wobbly cabinet doors. A lamp with a stubborn switch. A bike with a squeaky chain. Labor-free. The sign said, "Say thank you." I judged pies with a seriousness that would make a Supreme Court blush. Linda's lemon pie tasted like a hymn. Mr. Green's apple tasted like somebody's grandma had whispered a secret into it. Dolores made a pecan that nearly converted me to a new religion. We declared a three-way tie and watched the crowd pretend to be mad while sneaking second slices. A little moment got me a teen I didn't recognize. Walked up to the board table and said, "I want to file a complaint." Everyone braced without meaning to. The teen grinned. "It's about a broken bench," he said. And then he smiled bigger. "Just kidding. I already fixed it." He held up a photo. The bench gleamed. Sanded and stained and proud. The complaint form on the table fluttered in the breeze like it knew it had been demoted. Around winter, a guy started canvassing nearby neighborhoods, selling premium compliance reviews to scared residents. $300 for a binder of nonsense, and a promise to get the board off your back. He wore a badge-ish thing, and used phrases like quasi-official. He rolled into Oakwood on a Tuesday, like he owned a notary stamp and a dream. He knocked on Linda's door. "Wrong house, buddy." "Sweetie," she said, giving him the look she reserves for telemarketers and people who cut the church potluck line. "If the board is on my back, I'll handle it by myself. With a pie and a timer. You can handle yourself off my porch." He tried the Johnsons.
Ma'am, I just want my
Mr.
bag of tomatoes.
Johnson listened for 30 seconds. Then said, "Great. Let's call the board liaison together." And pulled out his phone. The scammer evaporated like a cheap cologne. Word spread. Ava made a meme. Ramon printed flyers saying, "No scams here." And the liaison logged a report with the city. When the guy tried Birch, I was walking by. He took one look. Recognized a face he'd seen on a television in a bar once. And decided the sidewalk was lava. The neighborhood applauded from porches. Soft and satisfied. It wasn't a mob. It was a spine. It wasn't all festivals and fixtures. One night, sirens cut through the block like scissors. A call about a domestic disturbance on Maple Voices raised. A crash. A child crying. I arrived with 2 officers. Radios low. Hearts high. We did what we do. Quick read of the scene. Calm words. A wedge of empathy and authority inserted just so. A man who'd been drinking stepped back, sobered by uniforms and the sight of his daughter's face. We separated. We listened. We wrote reports. We connected the family to a counselor who answers phones at hours decent people forget exist. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, because that's how people witness the worst nights half hidden. Wholly present. When it was over, the child's grandmother squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you for coming like humans." I said we'd come back tomorrow without sirens to check. We did. The next week, volunteers signed up for meal trains and rides to appointments. The board used the liaison fund to help with a deposit on a safer place. This is the part that doesn't trend. This is the part that saves lives. At a January meeting that smelled like coffee and resolutions, Greg cleared his throat. He said. And the room did that hush that happens when a person everyone expects to be stubborn decides to surprise them. I thought order meant never bending. I thought consistency meant never apologizing. He looked at Dolores, then at me. During the storm, if Marcus hadn't told me to let the kids clear the drain, my lawn would have been a lake, and my pride would have drowned. He proposed a grace clause for first-time minor violations, trash cans a day late, chalk drawings that linger, a garden gnome that strays beyond the approved height by an inch. We'll send a friendly note first, he said, with a cookie recipe at the bottom. If that doesn't work, then we escalate. The room laughed. The room approved. The room looked at Greg like he'd traded in a gavel for a handshake. On a Sunday, with soft light, I opened a box I hadn't since the move. Sarah's things. A scarf that smelled like winter and that shampoo she teased me for liking. A ticket stub from the little theater where we once watched a terrible play and held hands anyway. A note. Her handwriting looping like kindness. Be boring when it counts. Be brave when it matters. Bring snacks to both. I tucked the note into my wallet behind the badge. When the job felt like sandpaper, I rubbed the edge of that paper and remembered how she'd look at me when I wanted to rush. Don't sprint the parts meant for walking. She'd say, "You'll miss the view." Ava asked me to come to a school board meeting where some folks were turning a curriculum discussion into a brawl. "You don't have to speak," she said. "Just be a tall reminder." I laughed and went. Sitting in the back with parents who would happily fight a bear for their kids and sometimes confuse the principals with bears.
Right now, you
The
cannot
pattern was familiar fear in fancy words.
tomatoes.
Righteous anger. People mistaking volume for value. The board chair, a woman with the patience of a saint and the diction of a news anchor, kept saying, "One at a time," like it was a spell. After, in the parking lot, I stood with a circle of teens. Adults are loud. One said, "Adults are scared." I replied, "Fear yells." "What do we do?" Ava asked. "Learn to be brave without being loud," I said. "And vote. And bring snacks." They rolled their eyes. They heard me. I started writing notes. Old school. To folks who did unglamorous good. To the guy who repaints the graffiti under the highway every month without introducing himself. To the crossing guard who knows 200 kids' names and 90 parents' cars by dent pattern. To the librarian who holds story time and mediation in the same hour and makes both look easy. To Elise, at Freshmart, who stood straight that day and stands straight still. Thanks for showing up. The note said. It mattered. Some wrote back. Most didn't. I didn't need them to. The point was the stamp. A year and a half after Fresh Mart, I walked those same aisles and spotted a bag of tomatoes that looked like they'd learned resilience. Elise saw me and grinned. Velvet rope, she whispered, nodding at the display. It was an inside joke by now. Not a barricade. Outside. I loaded my trunk and looked up to see Patricia on the far edge of the lot. She looked smaller. Not physically, like the space around her had finally stopped carrying her words for her. She raised a hand halfway, then let it fall. I nodded. Sometimes the only apology you're gonna get is the one a person can't say out loud. Sometimes that has to be enough to finish the day. Back on the block. The Johnson kids were chalking suns again. The lines were better this year. Practice does that. Linda waved me onto her porch. Brownie, she asked. Always. I said. We sat. We ate. The street hummed with a life that made rules feel like scaffolding. Not cages. The board newsletter came out later that week. It was 3 paragraphs of updates and 1 sentence that made me smile. Wave first. We weren't perfect. We weren't done. But we were us. On purpose. First frost painted the lawns a soft white and made the world smell like wood smoke and memory. Oakwood had a tradition of lights. Some folks did a simple string along the eaves. Others went full orchestra, with synchronized twinkle shows that could, honestly, land airplanes. The year before, Patricia had tried to cap lumens and set tasteful display windows that were so narrow you'd need a stopwatch and a permission slip to be merry. This year, different board, different tone. Still, 2 streets over, a neighbor named Mitch sent a complaint about the Johnson kids' inflatable snowman army. It's tacky. It's excessive. He wrote. Property values will plummet. He used plummet like it was a law of physics you could file with the clerk. I walked by that evening. The Johnson yard did. In fact, feature an impressive battalion of snowfolk. Plus a penguin or 2 with little scarves that moved in the breeze like they had opinions.
Ma'am, I just want my bag
Kids
of
squealed.
tomatoes.
Adults who had once been kids pretended not to. Mr. Johnson waved me up the walkway. Mitch wrote, he asked. Reading my face. He did. I said. He also forgot about the year he turned his own driveway into the North Pole Gift Distribution HQ and blasted carols till midnight. Mr. Johnson laughed. I remember. We brought him cocoa and earplugs. Let me try something. I said. I invited Mitch to coffee on my porch. He arrived with a jaw set like a wrench. Before he could launch, I handed him a photo from Mr. Green scrapbook, his driveway. Candy cane arches. A stereo the size of a small fridge. Smiles for days. He stared. Then groaned. Okay. Okay, hypocrisy noted. Look. I said. The new policy is quiet at 10. Kindness before complaints. And a grace note for joy. That yard falls inside it. Becomes Intrigue Dale. How about we add a neighborhood map of low sensory zones for folks who need less noise, and a list of quiet hours that everyone agrees on? Mitch softened. And I am. Verse plations, no 9. Can live with that. You already have. I said. Tapping the photo. We posted the map online. Color-coded, like a good mood ring. The Johnsons moved the noisiest inflatables to the side, facing the green. Mitch dropped off cookies shaped like snowflakes, and the word sorry that crumbled just trying to apologize. The Johnson kids added a penguin with a tiny sign, community approved. Property values stayed fine. Joy went up. Dolores rolled up to the park one afternoon and stopped short. A dad and his son were on the swings. Nothing unusual except the boy's chair sat off to the side like an afterthought. Dolores looked at me. Then, at the empty patch of bark chips. "We have the money," she said. "Let's fix this." Ramon pulled measurements. The board voted funds. The city kicked in. 2 weeks later, we had an accessible swing with a soft ramp and a harness that didn't look like something from a hospital. Opening day. Kids lined up in a loop that echoed laughter. The boy in the chair, who used to watch from the perimeter, took his turn, soared, and shouted to the sky. His dad cried, which is a thing dads do when they see their kids go somewhere that used to be a wall. Patricia's old crew, what was left of it, muttered about aesthetics. Dolores smiled a smile with teeth. "Accessibility is an aesthetic," she said. "It looks like dignity." The muttering stopped. The swing stayed full till dusk. Parking in Oakwood is a sport disguised as a spreadsheet. Garages hold bikes and boxes and past lives, driveways hold the rest. The handbook said no street parking overnight. A rule that made shift workers into rule breakers by default. Renee, a nurse who works nights, found little yellow warnings tucked under her wiper, like shame notes. She didn't complain. She just kept getting home at 2 in the morning, bone tired, and parking near her door. On her 4th warning, a fine arrived, with a smiley face stamp that felt like a slap. Linda brought it to me. "This is silly," she said. "She saves lives. We should save her a parking spot." At the meeting, I told her story with permission and proposed a permit night shift exception. Simple application. Proof of schedule. A tag for the mirror. Greg bristled, then surprised us all. "Make it 2 permits per household if needed," he said. "Grandma caregivers. 2. A neighbor tried a slippery slope argument. "What if everyone asks for exceptions?" Richard countered. "Then we will read them. And we will say yes when it makes sense, and no when it doesn't." The motion passed. The next morning, I walked by Renee's house just as she climbed out of her car. Shoulders sunk. I lifted a little envelope. Inside a permit tag and a note. "We see you." She read it, put her head on the steering wheel, and exhaled like a prayer that finally found a place to sit down. Spring brings garage sales like tulips, sudden, jaunty, impossible to ignore. In the past, Patricia had required permits, color-matched signs, approved font sizes, and a maximum of 2 families per sale event, which is just a wild sentence to say out loud. This year, the board set a community weekend and handed out a kit, 2 signs, some chalk, a map with participating houses, and a 1-page reminder that read, "Be neighborly. Don't block driveways. Clean up by sundown." A man named Earl decided rules were for other people and parked his truck across the Johnson's curb cut, blocking the ramp. Mr. Johnson asked him to move. Earl told him to relax. I arrived as the temperature shifted towards storm. "Hey there,"
Ma'am, I just want my
I
bag of
said,
tomatoes.
smiling like a person who knows the law. "Let's find you a better spot." Earl squinted. "The street's public. I'm not doing anything wrong." "True," I said. "Also, true, blocking a curb cut is illegal, statewide. And I would prefer not to write a ticket while you're hunting for vintage wrenches." He huffed, looked at the ramp, looked at his pride, then moved the truck. When he came back to browse, He handed Mr. Johnson a couple of dollars more than the sticker price. For the hassle, he said. And, sorry. We didn't need a citation. We needed a nudge. A law in the back pocket. And a smile in the front. We held our first official mediation night in the community center. The one with the acoustics that make whispers sound like secrets, and secrets sound like trouble. 2 cases on the docket, wind chimes versus insomnia. And backyard smoker versus asthmatic neighbor. Case 1. Ava's grandmother loves wind chimes that sound like a gentle afternoon on a porch in a novel. Mr. Russo next door hears them as metal forks fighting in a hurricane. He works early, sleeps light, and had started a petition that read like a breakup letter to weather. We listened. We laughed. Gently. We tried chimes in the room and measured decibels. We compromised. The chimes get a timer off between 10 at night and 8 in the morning. Mr. Russo brings over biscotti as a peace treaty. Ava posts a photo of the timer with the caption, "Technology is diplomacy," which gets more likes than any policy announcement we've ever made.
Ma'am, I just want my
Case
bag of
2.
potatoes.
Ramon's weekend smoker makes meat that could make a vegan reconsider choices. The neighbor, Maya, has asthma that turns certain smokes into ER trips. We rearranged grill placement, set smoke-only hours when Maya's at work, and gave Ramon a grant for a better filter stack he swore would change everything. It did. They ended the session trading recipes and an invitation. "I'll bring salad," Maya said, "and my inhaler, just in case." They both laughed. Not unkind. A rumor sprouted that all our softness would tank values. A real estate agent sent out a mailer. "Is your board too nice?" Which, is a sentence built in a factory for newsletters. Mr. Green proposed an experiment. Invite an appraiser to speak. Then walk the block. The appraiser arrived in a blazer that said, "I know numbers, but I also know lawns." She spoke plainly. Buyers pay for stability, cleanliness, safety, and vibe, she said. Vibe is hard to quantify, but it shows up as fewer complaints and more smiles during showings. She paused, letting the room metabolize the word vibe in a professional context. Your new processes reduce litigation risk. Your events build cohesion.
Calling the police
Your
right
accessible
now.
features widen your buyer pool.
Ma'am, I just want
Your
my bag of
values,
potatoes.
on paper and in practice, are an asset. Greg beamed like he'd just adopted vibe as a legal term. The agent who sent the mailer shrank a bit in his chair and later apologized for the headline. We took the appraiser for a walk. Kids waved. Dolores told a joke. Ramon tightened a loose fence screw with a tool he just, apparently, carries. The appraiser nodded, took notes, and said, "This neighborhood appraises as lived in well. That's worth something." One Friday, Renee asked to ride along for an hour on my patrol. "I want to see the city the way you see it," she said. We cruised quiet streets, checked on a couple of hot spots, helped a stranded driver push her car to a shoulder. Renee watched the radio. The small rituals. The way copy can be a prayer. She asked about fear. I told her the truth. Fear is a tool and a fog. Too much and you can't see. Too little and you miss the cliff. She laughed. "We say the same in the ER," she said. "We call it adrenaline math." We swung by Freshmart because, yeah, old habits. Elise waved. Renee grinned. "Velvet rope," she whispered. And we cracked up in the aisle like two kids who'd been told not to. On the way out, she looked at me. "I'm glad you didn't flash the badge that day," she said. "It made a bigger point this way. Sometimes the quiet move is louder later." I said, "Sometimes you wait so you can teach." She nodded, then yawned. "I'm gonna crash for, like, 12 minutes, and then go back to work. Take 14. I said. "Live wild." Richard suggested we write a letter to whoever holds the gavel 5 or 10 years from now. We sat around a table with coffee rings that looked like planets and words that wanted to be useful. "Dear future us," we wrote. "Here's what we learned the hard way. 1, rules are for steering, not smacking. 2, aesthetic is not a synonym for bias. 3, joy should not require paperwork. 4, accessibility is not optional. 5, grace saves money. 6, complaints must have dates, details, and a desired outcome. 7, no anonymous sniping.
I am calling the
8,
police right now.
post your
You cannot
minutes.
phone me.
Gossip
Ma'am,
hates
I just want
daylight.
my bag of tomatoes.
9, wave first. 10, when in doubt, put out chairs and cookies and listen. We sealed it in a tin with a small wrench, a piece of chalk, a tiny wind chime, a photo of the accessible swing, and a printout of the ordinance with Dorito fingerprints on it, because authenticity is sticky. Every now and then, the old vibe tries for a comeback. An email from a new resident complained about Dolores's ramp flower boxes being non-standard. I called, ready to offer cookies in context. "Sir," she began. Crisp. "I moved here for standards. And you got them." I replied, cheerful. "The standard here is neighbors who can enter their homes safely and make those entries beautiful. You'll love it. We have a whole Pinterest board." She laughed despite herself. "Okay. That's funny. Give us a month," I said. "Come to the next circle. Bring an open mind. We'll bring snacks." She came. She clapped when the teen club presented their tool shed ledger like it was a baby. She signed up to help plant trees. She sent Dolores a note that read, "Your zinnias are better than therapy. Progress doesn't always need an argument. Sometimes it needs an invitation and a well-timed joke." I wish I could tell you I carried all this with a saint's back and a comedian's grin. Truth. One night, I sat on my kitchen floor between the fridge and the dog's water bowl and let a big, ugly cry do what it needed. The job piled up. A call went bad, and then got saved, and then replayed in my head like a song with a scratch. Sarah's scarf in the memory box smelled like the wrong winter. A letter came from a neighboring town asking for help with a board that had gone full tyrant. And I felt the weight of being the guy with answers. I had none that night. Linda not. Because Linda has timing like jazz. I baked, she said, holding a plate that steamed sanity. "I am not presentable." I croaked. "You're a person," she said. "That's presentable enough." We sat on the floor. She ate a brownie, handed me one, and told a story about a church pageant costume disaster that ended with a shepherd in sneakers and an angel stuck in a doorway. I laughed. The kind that makes crying reconsider its contract. She squeezed my shoulder. "Take tomorrow," she said. "Let the deputy be the chief for a minute. The neighborhood won't fall." I took the day. I watched a dumb movie. I watered plants I shouldn't have. I called my mom. I prayed out loud without worrying if it sounded pretty. I came back to work the next morning feeling like a person again, not a role. Word wandered. A development 2 towns over asked if we could come talk through our ordinance and processes. I brought Richard, Dolores, and Ava, because I'm not a one-man show, and also because cookies taste better when somebody else bakes them. We sat in their community center, under fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little seasick. Their board was split half, ready to change. Half ready to defend the status quo, like it had paid their mortgage. We told stories. We shared our letter to the future board. We explained the permit for night shift workers, and the grace clause, and the kids club that builds things instead of burning energy online. We did not dunk on their Karen because, spoiler, every place has one. And dunking is a sugar high. A man in the back raised his hand. How do you keep it from slipping back, he asked. You don't. I said. You build habits that make the slip obvious and fixable. You keep minutes. You publish them.
I am calling the police
You
right
rotate
now.
roles so nobody marries the gavel.
Ma'am, I just want my bag
You
of
throw
potatoes.
potlucks because it's hard to be cruel to people whose casseroles you like. And you write down what you value. He nodded. We can try that. Tries the whole deal. I said. And, wave first. They smiled. They copied that onto a whiteboard. We left them with our tool shed list and a promise to answer emails before they turn into novels. Winter settled in with a hush and a sparkle. The accessible swing collected snow like a hat. The Johnson penguins wore scarves that flapped in the breeze like they were gossiping about the weather. The board sent out a note, thank you for a year of kindness and repair. We added a line about chalk, permits, and pies. We added wave first, somewhere across town. Patricia sat in a circle and told a truth that hurt to say. Tyler packed cans at the food bank and didn't take photos. Renee hung her permit tag on the mirror and slept in a little deeper. Mitch walked past the snowman army, and this is my favorite part, brought his niece to look at the lights. I stood on my porch with a mug that warmed my hands and watched my breath ghost the air, and felt something simple and stubborn. Not victory. Not even peace exactly. Just a neighborhood doing what neighborhoods do when they remember how. On the table behind me, Sarah's note leaned against a candle. Be boring when it counts. Be brave when it matters. Bring snacks to both. I smiled. I mean, yeah, that's the plan. Spring thawed into that soft warmth that makes fences look friendlier. Then a listing popped up on a travel site. Charming Oakwood home sleeps 12, perfect for bachelor parties. 12 is a number that turns neighbors into math teachers. The comments lit up before sunrise. Noise. Trash. Strangers. Cars. You could taste the fear. At the board table, 3 camps formed. Camp 1, ban everything, with fresh towels and a key code. Camp 2, allow but limit. Camp 3, I rented my upstairs last summer to a nurse traveling, and she brought me zucchini bread. I called a meeting framed, not as fighting air whatever, but protecting rest. We invited a property manager who doesn't blow smoke, a nurse who travels, and a neighbor from a street that got it wrong and paid for it. We asked questions with verbs. What protects? What curbs? What helps? By the end, we wrote a policy with boring teeth, a cap on how many in the development, an owner-occupied requirement, a phone number posted on file, so someone, a human, could answer at 2 in the morning, a 3 strikes rule, with escalating fines, and, finally, suspension of the right to rent, parking marked in the listing, clear, quiet hours written in actual words, not wishes. We also created a courtesy call list neighbors who wanted a text when a new group checked in. Some folks wanted it. Some folks did not. We did not force vibes. The Sleeps 12 house applied. fussed, then complied. The first weekend brought a bachelorette crew that left glitter and thank you notes and zero noise. The second weekend brought a group of golfers who put their bags in the garage, their credit cards into local restaurants, and their cans into the right bin. The third weekend tried Too Hard Noise at Midnight, a driveway poker game that looked like a painting of trouble. I called the posted number. The owner, shock of shocks, answered. He made a call. The house quieted. Strike one logged. The system did its quiet clack. 2 months later, that owner sold. He emailed the board. The note humble. I thought this would be easy money. Your rules made it work. Your rules also made me realize being a hotelier isn't my ministry. Thanks for protecting the neighborhood. And, frankly, me. If you want to find the soul of a neighborhood, count the mailboxes. Ours had been a battlefield under Patricia height, color, shape, the whole tiny throne line. One Tuesday, a photo showed up in the group, a lavender mailbox with hand-painted daisies. The caption, too much. The responses were a chorus of adorable, with a bass note of the rules. Dolores wheeled over to the owner's doorstep and told her story of the ramp, of aesthetic used like a club, of the day we chose dignity over uniformity. The owner listened with a hand over her mouth, like she'd been braced for shame, and got community instead. She offered to repaint if it caused trouble. Dolores waved her off. Paint your joy, she said. Just keep the numbers readable. We updated the palette. The new rule was 3 lines long: keep house numbers clear. Keep the structure safe. Keep the joy. Overnight, the block collected a bouquet deep blues, tasteful greens, one sunset orange that startled and then grew on us like a catchy song. Greg admitted he liked the orange. Don't tell anyone, he whispered. I told everyone. He rolled his eyes and brought matching planters. The city declared drought restrictions by midsummer watering days, odd and even. No car washing. No waste. The old covenants would have punished brown lawns. The new us wrote an amendment in a day. Brown is conservation. The notice read, native plants earn a discount. Ramon taught a Saturday workshop on drip irrigation. Linda handed out xeriscape plant lists with notes in the margin, gorgeous in August. Bees love this. Smells like rain. We set up a mulch pool because I, made a pun in a meeting, and it stuck. Neighbors chipped in to split a delivery cheaper. Mitch, newly converted by the snowman detente, stopped watering altogether and installed a gravel and sage layout that looked like it read books. Patricia's old crew muttered about desert vibes, but the water bill graph spoke fluent savings. The city's water department sent us a thank you note and featured Oakwood on their page. A win that tastes like dust and pride. A letter to the board asked a question louder than it looked. I rent on Birch. Do I get to speak? The old bylaws let owners vote, but told renters to contact their landlord. We all know how that goes. I suggested a renter council seat, non-voting at first, with a guaranteed agenda slot every meeting, and a pathway to expand. Some balked. Dolores leaned toward the mic and said, if you pay to live here, you live here. If you live here, you speak. We voted yes. Jav, a grad student, took the first seat. She pointed out things we missed: overflow trash after move-in weekends, lighting near mail clusters, the way notices assume printers. Not everyone has one, she said. Please post on the board by the park. 2. We changed. It mattered. Later, we amended the bylaws to give the renter council 2 voting seats. The vote wasn't unanimous. The sky did not fall. The block felt more like itself. Mr. Green rolled into the meeting with a folder that smelled like old paper and truth. He dug up the original development covenants from decades back and found a clause that once excluded certain people by race. It had been unenforceable for years, illegal, immoral, dusty, but it was there, like an apology waiting to be said aloud. We organized a history day at the Green. We read the clause in full, then read a statement renouncing it. The city clerk helped us file a formal removal. A local choir sang. Kids chalked a timeline on the path. A black elder told the story of being shown a different neighborhood by a realtor with a smile and a quiet rulebook. Linda cried. So did I. We planted a tree and named the spot The Turn. Greg spoke softly. Standards without justice ain't standards. They're just snobbery. A Sunday walked by slowly. I heard lawnmowers and the hiss of hoses on loud days, and a father teaching a child to wobble less. I read an email from a woman who moved back after Patricia drove her out. It feels different, she wrote. Like the block unclenched its jaw. I forwarded it to the board. Richard replied with a single word. Keep. The liaison office downtown shared data complaints down. Resolutions faster. Fewer appeals turning into fire drills. The ordinance didn't fix hearts. It did fix habits. Sometimes that's enough scaffolding for hearts to try. A neighbor snapped at a group of teens for taking over the swings. Let the little kids play. He barked. Even though the swings were open, Ava was there. Thank God. She said, we're seniors next month. We're leaving. Can we swing a minute? She could have yelled. She didn't. The neighbor doubled down. It got awkward. A mom stepped in and said, they can swing. We all can swing. It's, swings. The neighbor walked off, red-faced. The next day he came back with a bag of freeze pops and an apology that tripped over itself and kept going. I had a day, he said. I made it yours. Sorry. The teens took freeze pops and handed a few to kids. The playground exhaled. We added a little sign under the park rules. Swings are for everyone. A small thing. But small things saved us a lot this year. Jazz proposed a night market. On the Green once a month, tables for makers, musicians, bakers, kids with friendship bracelets, retired guys with birdhouses. We set rules, no generators. Lights off by 10. No deep fryers, because we learned that lesson once at a church thing. The first night filled with fairy lights. The kind you can buy cheap and make look like magic. Ramon tuned a guitar. Ava's club sold lemonade with biodegradable glitter. Because, of course, Mrs. Lopez sold tamales so good we had to start a line system. Property values. Ask the appraiser. Community value. Off the charts. We watched money move from hand to hand and realized it didn't need to leave the neighborhood to do good work. Mitch bought a birdhouse. Dolores laughed so loud the Cardinals paused. Not every story lifts. A father on Maple had anger he couldn't hold. We tried every tool: mediation, counseling referrals, pastor visits, police presence when needed, a restraining order request. The night it broke bad. Nobody died. That feels like a cheap victory. It was not. We moved a mother and 2 kids into safety. The board paid a deposit from the emergency fund. The church collected furniture. The school counselor watched the kids like a hawk with a soft heart. I tell you this not to ruin our little Eden. Eden never existed. I tell you because success stories without the hard ones turn into fairy tales. And fairy tales make neighbors think failure is personal. Sometimes the win is a locked door holding. Sometimes the win is a judge signing quickly. Sometimes the win is a kid sleeping through the night. Finally, Linda invited me to dinner with Mr. Green and Dolores, and Ramon and Jazz and Renee. We ate too much, told small stories, didn't check our phones. We did not talk about Patricia once. At dessert, Linda raised a glass of sweet tea. Too boring, she said, and too brave. We clinked. I heard Sarah in my head bring snacks to both. I walked home through a block humming like a cat in sun. I passed the accessible swing. Now just a dark shape against a darker sky. I passed Mitch's house, where a single string of lights glowed like a line of forgiveness. I passed the Johnsons' porch, where a penguin sat in off-season retirement, wearing a scarf and a smug expression. I laughed alone, which, is a fine way to laugh. A company with a name that sounded like a smoothie, Blueberry Capital, something like that, bought a corner house to flip. At first, fine. Houses, age, builders, build. Then the jackhammers hit dawn like it owed them money. Crews blocked driveways. Dumpsters squatted in the street. Nails showed up in tires like evil confetti. The foreman shrugged at Linda. Mistake. Linda does not receive shrugs kindly. We pulled permits. The city inspector found violations stacked like plywood. Work halted till compliance. The foreman showed up at the board meeting with a smile that said, "I donate to campaigns." Richard handed him the ordinance and a muffin. "Follow this," he said. "Eat that." Not the reverse. We wrote a construction courtesy plan template: working hours, parking plans, debris containment, neighbor contact. Blueberry complied or paid. Crews learned to wave. The flip finished. The house sold to a teacher who cried when he got the keys. The company sent me a holiday basket with a card. "Your neighborhood is tough. Respect." I re-gifted the basket to the liaison's office. They do the Lord's paperwork. Dogs multiply like love. Complaints about barking did. 2. We convened a dog committee, 3 owners. 1 neighbor without a pet. A trainer who charges less than a car payment. They wrote tips that didn't shame walk times. Enrichment ideas. White noise for neighbors. Contact before complaint. We put bag stations at corners and a lost and found leads board by the park. A man who used to scowl at every golden retriever learned 3 names and forgot to scowl. We gave out good neighbor tags to dogs who passed a little greet without chaos course. Ava designed the tag. It looks like a paw high-fiving a hand. It's silly. It worked. The gift card in Patricia's envelope turned into a little rolling cart at the green every Saturday morning. Kids traded books. Elders did, too. No fees. No shame. The sign read, "Return or replace, or just say thank you." A boy picked up a comic and brought back a different one the next week with a sticky note. I liked this more. Jazz curated a shelf called Rules That Help, with books about conflict, patience, and how cities work. People took them. People returned them. Sometimes they kept them and wrote anonymous little notes. This made me calmer. One said, "That's a checkout stamp in my line of work." Ava's club asked to host a game watch on the green projector. Blankets, cocoa, We said yes, with conditions sound limited. Quiet by 10. Trash out by the end. I half expected chaos. What we got, families in hats. Teens, not sneaking anything worse than too many marshmallows. An old man who brought a portable radio because he likes the commentary, and we let him be old school. At halftime, a neighbor with a flag draped around his shoulders started a chant that got loud. Then turned into a smile when he saw a toddler cover her ears. He kitted. He waved. He apologized to the toddler. She solemnly accepted. Then booped his nose with a mitten. America. But nice. A question kept popping up. Who owns the green? Legally us. As a common area. Practically everyone. Emotionally, the kids. We invited the attorney who drafted our new bylaws to explain it without using $5 words. He did. You own it together, he said. You steward it for each other. He explained liability in pictures if you block the path and someone trips. That's dumb. If you invite the circus, get a permit. If you plant a tree, write it down so a future board knows why.
Ma'am, I just want
He
my
also
bag of
told us
tomatoes.
to take photos of the green once a season from the same corners. It helps track wear and plan repairs. He said. The photos turned into a grid we put on the clubhouse wall. You could watch kids grow by comparing the jump rope blur year to year. An investment firm sent owners glossy letters we buy as is. Close, fast. Cash. They wanted a third of the block. The fear meter twitched. We held a seminar on predatory offers. A housing nonprofit came and walked people through options if they needed to sell without getting fleeced. A tax advisor explained capital gains in plain English. Mr. Green told a story about a street he once lived on that went hollow when investors turned porches into portals for strangers with luggage every weekend. We did not ban selling to anyone. That's not how freedom works here. We did add a right of first refusal clause for the association on common areas, and an encouragement for owners. Talk to your neighbors before you sign. 2 folks did. 1 sale stayed on the block. 1 went to a young family who'd been trying for a year. We did not save every house from being swallowed by a portfolio. We saved some. That matters. Our block made a group text for emergencies that used to be chaos. 40 people with opinions at the speed of thumbs. We wrote 3 rules and pinned them at the top: emergencies only. Thumbs up if you saw it. Post resolution when resolved. The very next week. A car alarm wailed at 3 in the morning. Someone posted the cross street. The owner replied on it and silenced
I am
it.
calling the police
5
right now.
thumbs up.
Film me.
Silence returned.
I just want my bag
It
of
felt like a
tomatoes.
superpower powered by restraint. A karaoke machine appeared at the night market. Don't look at me. I didn't bring it. And somehow, I ended up singing a Motown song off-key enough to make the birds file a complaint. Ava filmed. Of course. The video hit the group with a caption, "Our chief is human." Comments. We already knew. He brave. He owes us an apology pie. Linda made me one anyway. I ate my mortification with whipped cream. July crept in with its usual boom. Fireworks taste like holiday and sound like war. Veterans on our block asked for a plan. Dog owners begged for sanity. Teens wanted sparkle. We wrote a compromise. City allowed dates only. A 2-hour window. A map of no fireworks zones, near vets and dogs who struggle. We handed out confetti poppers and glow sticks as alternatives. The night came. The sky popped. Then quieted. A neighbor posted a thanks from his porch. His service flag in frame. I got through the night without hiding in the bathroom. Appreciate y'all. The thread went quiet in that way that means something holy just passed by. A portable hoop rolled into the street and stayed. The sound of dribbles echoes in cul-de-sacs like a metronome for arguments. A neighbor complained. Kids sulked. I showed up with a tape measure and a smile. Show me a layup, I told a boy in socks. Which? Look. Was not safe. We fixed that. He showed me. It was good. We measured the hoop's placement. It violated the clear street rule by a hair and a half. We moved it 2 feet back. We painted a faint line to mark home. We posted hours, daylight and early evening. Not middle of the night, and a share reminder. We bought 2 cheap balls and wrote Oakwood on them. 3 weeks later, I walked by and saw a kid teach a smaller kid to square his shoulders. That's urban planning. 2. A small group kept sending letters about decline. They missed the days when a board could write a letter that felt like getting pulled over. I met them. We drank coffee and said the hard things out loud. They felt displaced by joy. It made them feel like the rules had become decorative. I listened, then asked what they wanted that wasn't unkind. Predictability. One said, we gave them predictability, a published calendar, a steady schedule for events, a set time for board office hours, a clear place to send concerns and guaranteed response times. You don't have to like the Penguins, I told one, but you should always know when they're coming. He laughed, despite trying not to. His shoulders lowered. He came to the next meeting and didn't speak. Just listened. That's a kind of peace. The city asked for volunteers to help stripe a short bike lane by the school under supervision. We showed. Kids in vests held little rollers. Adults held bigger ones. Cars crawled through the detour like learning to be gentle. A week later, a mom posted, my kid biked to school for the first time. We cried. The thread filled with photos of small helmets and big pride. The lane glowed under streetlights like someone underlined safety. A community choir started rehearsals on the green hymns. Hop. Whatever fits into a human throat. They sang on Sunday afternoons while dogs napped and kids drew new suns. Patricia stood once at the edge, hands in pockets, listening. She did not sing. She did hum. I walked past and nodded. She nodded back. Sometimes, that's the duet a year can manage.
Ma'am, I just want my bag of tomatoes.
A kitchen fire started on Maple. The teen inside remembered the safety demo from school, grabbed his little brother, and got out. The smoke alarm screamed. Neighbors called. Firefighters put it down before it ate the house whole. The board's emergency contact list helped us reach the parents before rumor did. We rallied meals. A contractor for repair at cost. Gift cards. The family sat on their steps that evening, shaken and wrapped in blankets, and watched kindness move like a bucket brigade. Ava's club made a poster. You're still home. We taped it to the mailbox. The next week, the teen asked to join the block watchers. I owe the neighborhood, he said. Kid, you're the neighborhood. A state senator heard about our ordinance and asked to visit. Politicians make me itchy. Sincerity and cameras are oil and water. But he came without a press pool. Just an aide and a notebook. We walked. He asked real questions. The kind that begin with how and who, instead of don't you agree. He promised to file a bill to support HOA transparency statewide meeting notices online. In minutes, within a week. An ombud's office to mediate fights before they become lawsuits. I told him to include a sentence that says, chalk is joy. He laughed. He did not put that part in the bill. He did shake hands like he meant it. Ava's civics class did a project. Design a kinder HOA. They interviewed us. Toured the liaison's office. Shadowed a board meeting. And made a map of pain points. We missed a crosswalk that needed repainting. A mailbox cluster without lights. A fence gap where kids cut through as a shortcut and then slipped on wet grass. They presented a plan with budget lines and bake sale revenue fills. We funded half. They fundraised the rest. They learned that change is paperwork plus cookies. Good lesson. Remember Camille, who left sobbing? She came back. Rented first. Then bought a place on the curve of the cul-de-sac. She planted rosemary and courage. On moving day, neighbors showed up with dollies and arms. She cried again. But the good kind. The kind that rinses the salt out. I carried a box labeled Kitchen Joy and thought, yes, that's how boxes should
I
read.
am calling the police right now. You cannot.
A fence went up 2 feet too high.
I just want my
The
bag of
city wrote a
tomatoes.
notice. The owner freaked out. We spun up panic into a plan. The liaison coordinated a variance because the slope made the rules silly there. The owner lowered the end near the sidewalk. The city signed off. The neighbors shrugged. Sometimes the answer isn't break it down. It's tilted a little. We added a note to the how-to fence sheet called the liaison first. Saved half a dozen headaches. A small pantry box popped up near the green. Take what you need. Leave what you can. Some people sneer at that sort of thing. Ours did not.
I am calling
It
the
emptied.
police right now. You cannot.
Refilled. Emptied
Ma'am,
again.
I just want my bag
A
of
single
tomatoes.
mom wrote a note. Slipped behind the cereal. The tuna kept us from being hungry. Thank you. We added diapers. We added a sign. Fresh stuff. Put it in the cooler at Linda's. She did not mind. She, bragged. Tyler asked if we'd do a restorative justice circle with a few of the neighbors he'd hurt the Johnsons. Elise from Freshmart. Linda. Me. A facilitator sat us in a circle with a talking piece that felt corny until it didn't. Tyler spoke first. He did not make excuses. He named harm. He said sorry without decorating it. He cried. So did Mr. Johnson. Talking about his kid's fear. Elise talked about that day in the aisle and how her hands shook. Linda said she prayed for Tyler while she wanted to wring his ears. I said I was proud of him now. Not for painting over what he did, but for not pretending it was rain. We closed with plans Tyler would mentor a middle schooler. He would help at the pantry. He would speak at the high school on Don't Be Me. The circle did not erase. It did. However, draw a door. We planted a small memory garden for neighbors' lost quiet corner. Native flowers. A stone bench. I had Sarah's initials carved tiny on the underside where my hand could find them without making the garden about me. People left notes in a weatherproof box. Miss you. Dad. You taught me to fix a faucet. You made the best peach pie. Grief sat down on that bench. Took off its shoes. And stayed a while. It didn't feel heavy. It felt held. Another storm. Another outage. But this time, the group text spun up with less drama. Renee checked on her night shift people. The liaison pinged the city on the outstreet. Someone on Birch fired up a grill and cooked quickly, defrosting stuff for whoever showed. Kids played cards under lanterns. Greg brought his new battery backup for a sump pump and demonstrated like a proud QVC host. No cars needed, tow trucks. No basements flooded like last time. We had learned. A resident wanted to ban all soliciting. Another wanted to support the Girl Scouts and the school band. We compromised with a time window. A local-only rule. And a simple, no soliciting today sign neighbors could hang when they were done being social. It kept out the window salesmen who talk like auctions, and let in small kids in sashes selling hope. Everyone got to choose their piece. A storm took out steps to a porch on a rental where an elder lived. The landlord said they'd fix it next week. That's a long time to be trapped. The block watchers showed up with a plan. A volunteer carpenter. And permission. They built a temporary ramp in one day. Sturdy as kindness. The elder rolled onto her porch and cried. Jazz wrote to the landlord. Politely firm. About code and humanity. The permanent fix went in 2 days later. We added rapid response ramps to our emergency toolkit list. An attorney named Priya moved in and offered a class at the night market tent. How to disagree without becoming a meme. She taught us I statements that weren't passive-aggressive. How to repeat back someone's point before answering. How to pick the right time hint, not midnight over text, and how to end with a next step. Not just a mic drop. Sounds corny. Made fights shorter. Made friendships sturdier. The city gave Oakwood a Community Cohesion Award. We laughed at the name. Sounds like a meeting with bad coffee, but we dressed nice and went. The plaque hangs in the clubhouse crooked on purpose because Ramon says perfection scares people. Reporters asked for a quote. I said, boring works. Cookies help. It ran in the paper. Linda clipped it and stuck it on my fridge, with a magnet shaped like a tomato. I swear she plans these things. The Ramirez family put up a for sale sign after a rough year illness. Bills. A roof leak that turned into a ceiling surprise. Greg saw the sign, walked over, and said, before you sell, let us try something. The board organized a roof day volunteer labor under a licensed contractor's supervision. Supplies at cost. City inspector on call. Donations covered what savings couldn't. The leak stopped. So did the sale. The Ramirez kids chalked thank you in letters so big it took the whole sidewalk to finish the word. A mailbox held a card with cash from a neighbor who wrote, I can't climb a ladder. I can do this. That's community. Not everyone doing everything. Everyone doing something. We opened the time capsule tin to add an addendum. Lessons learned since the first letter. Dear future us. It said, remember that every no requires a yes somewhere else. Say no to anonymous complaints. Say yes to office hours. Say no to traffic chaos. Say yes to bike lanes and clear maps. Say no to aesthetic as a weapon. Say yes to chalk and ramps and mailboxes that smile. Wave. Breathe. Pray if that's your thing. Bake if that's your thing. Build if that's your thing. Do not do it all. Do not do nothing. We sealed it with a smudge of chili from Ramon's fingers that, still makes me laugh. One evening. Late summer humming. Patricia requested a brief time on the agenda. The room tensed like a muscle with memory. She walked in alone. Sat in the front row with a manila folder held like a truce flag. When her turn came, she stood, cleared her throat, and looked at the clock like she rehearsed staying short. I don't have much to say. She began. I asked for this time to do a thing my therapist says matters. She looked at me. Then at the Johnsons. Then at Elise, near the back. Then at Linda. Then at Tyler, who had chosen a seat that forced him to look at his past and his future at once. I caused harm, she said. Voice steady as a bridge. I justified it with words like standards and safety. They were excuses for fear and pride. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I am asking to say this out loud, so it stops living in only my head. She placed the folder on the
I am
table.
calling the police right now. You cannot film me.
These are copies of all my
Ma'am, I just want
apologies.
my bag of tomatoes.
Also, a small donation to the youth club. I cannot make this right. I can make me better. Silence. Not icy warm. Dolores nodded. Mr. Green wiped his eye, as if dust had chosen that moment. Linda looked at the ceiling like she didn't want mascara to run. Tyler had his jaw set in a way that used to mean anger and now meant effort. Thank you, Richard said. He did not hand her a cookie. He did not perform mercy. He let the room breathe. Patricia left without turning the moment into a social media episode. The door closed softly. A chapter's last page turned. We held a day of sun's chalk art everywhere. Kids and adults drawing their warmest circles. Ava set out bins like a paint store. Mitch drew a sun wearing sunglasses. Dolores drew a ramp basking. The Johnson kids drew penguins in beach hats, because consistency is a virtue. I drew badly and laughed. At myself on purpose. A neighbor who had been skeptical at every step drew a small sun in the corner and wrote one word, okay. I shook his hand. We didn't need more than that. A note crossed my desk about an elder who hadn't been out. The mail piled. The porch sat untouched. I knocked. She answered. Surprised. Said she was fine. She was not. We added loneliness checks to the block watcher's monthly list knock. Wave. A minute on a porch. The elder started appearing at the night market to buy cookies and argue about peaches. She laughed at a joke I made that wasn't that funny. That laugh counted. A letter arrived in crayons. Dear Chief, I like the swing. I like chalk. I like penguins. Thanks. From Ellie. I put it on my wall near Sarah's note. On a hard day. I read both. One says, be boring and brave. One says, penguins. Honestly. That covers a lot. A developer wanted to turn the creek edge into parking overflow. The plan was legal, profitable, and wrong. We filled a meeting with people who love turtles and trees, and kids who throw sticks into water, like watching them float counts as a sport. I wrote a letter on department letterhead about emergency access and floodplains. The council listened. The plan died. The creek lived. Sometimes, you do pick the fight. Pick wisely. Pick together. That senator's bill passed notices online. Minutes on time. Ombuds funded. We threw a small party for a big boring thing. Greg gave a toast that included the phrase, I love minutes. And, look, I almost cried laughing. But here's the thing. People can only hold power accountable if they can see it. Now they can. Fewer shadows. Fewer monsters. Mid-July.
Ma'am, I just want my
A
bag of
single
tomatoes.
penguin showed up on the Johnson porch wearing a Hawaiian shirt. No one complained. Someone left sunglasses on its beak. Someone else wrapped a tiny lei. A sign appeared by its feet. Wave first. It became our unofficial motto. I shook my head and grinned every time I passed. A resident wrote the board, thank you for the grace clause. Also, please enforce the speed limit. Both can be true. We borrowed a radar sign from the city. Put it on the worst stretch. Speeds dropped because nobody wants to read their sins in glowing numbers. We added slow roll days with chalk art, reminding drivers to breathe. A teen painted kids live here in swirly letters that made even the cranky slow down out of sheer admiration. 2 neighbors got married under the big oak by the green. The choir sang. The board handled permits like pros. The teens strung lights. Linda baked an army's worth of cupcakes. I stood off to the side and watched vows knotted with witness. Houses held people who held each other. That's a city. That's the work. I took a slow lap one evening past the library cart, the tool shed, the accessible swing, the painted mailboxes, the quiet creek, the bike lane stripe, the memory bench. I nodded at the penguin in a Hawaiian shirt because, of course, I passed Patricia walking her dog at a gentle pace. She nodded, eyes steady. Tyler sat on the curb showing a kid how to tighten a bolt. Jazz organized flyers at the board. Greg wiped down a picnic table like it might thank him. I thought of the very first day. The bag of tomatoes. The scream for 20 police cars. The lie in a fancy voice. I thought of the press conference thunk of a badge on wood. I thought of Sarah's note curled inside my wallet like a compass. What does a neighborhood owe its people?
Right now. You cannot.
Safety, clarity,
I just want my bag of
grace,
tomatoes.
a swing, a chalk day. A process that works when we're at our worst. A habit of joy so strong it resists bullies in blazers and bullies in board shorts. A mailbox that smiles back. A penguin in July. I don't do speeches much, but if I did, I'd say this: wave first, document, read the handbook, rewrite it if it's hurting more than it's helping, bake pie, share tools, name harm, repair what you can, call a meeting when fear gets loud, put the chairs in a circle, set a timer, listen, write minutes, post them, say I was wrong, say I hear you, say we can try that, enforce the rules that protect, retire the ones that punish joy, build a ramp, plant a tree, paint a mailbox, keep water out of basements, keep chalk on sidewalks, keep penguins in season or not, whatever keeps the sun drawing itself back on the pavement after rain. And when a Karen calls the cops on you, or, heck, on the chief, take a breath. Be boring when it counts. Be brave when it matters. Bring snacks to both. You'll be amazed what that can fix. What would you do if your HOA tried to police your joy? Anybody else had a Karen? Call the cops over tomatoes or mailboxes or penguins. Drop your story. There's people who need to know they ain't alone.